Hi, and welcome to Fontes Insider. I'm Kim Bassett, your host. If you are someone, in our title of this, about creating more time, I realize that we can't create more time. But how would you like it if you could actually reclaim some of the time that you lose every day? Today on Fontes Insider, coming from Las Vegas, Nevada, is Ronan Rahaman. Starting out in the construction industry with over 400 employees, Ronan now leverages his experience and expertise at Invictus Consulting as a business coach and strategist to accelerate results to business owners and professionals. When not helping a business owner live a life by design, he enjoys spending time with his family. Ronan, welcome to Fontes Insider. So do you feel like a celebrity?
I do. I feel like I'm on Entertainment Tonight.
Well, we aim to please. We aim to be a little bit professional here, and still have a good time. So, everyone, just want to introduce you to Ronan. I am so excited. He and I've kind of the last few months have been in a networking group, and he has a huge amount of value. He's here in the Las Vegas with me. I thought that was amazing. Out of all the networking things that I went to the last few years, we've never crossed paths. So, Ronan, I want you to tell them a little bit about your story, right? Because you talked about, we talked a little bit about in the sizzle reel about your construction and then what you're doing now. So help everyone that's listening in know a little bit about who you are.
Awesome. So, for me, my life is broken up into probably three parts. Obviously, there's the business side of things where I work with small to medium-sized business owners to help them, create more time is one of the things that we work on creating, but also less stress, less overwhelm, and get rid of that stinking thinking that Zig Ziglar talks about. And I love doing that with businesses. I have a construction background from a long time ago, which is one of the reasons I came to Vegas and, created a painting and drywall company and expanded that, and it grew and learned a lot. I worked with national home builders on implementing software and just working with their teams on integrating everything and having them all work together. So the whole thing about, communication, leadership, teamwork, all this stuff, it's just like, I'm super passionate about it. I get excited talking about it. And also, talking about things like productivity, because that really touches people on a daily basis. Everyone somehow deals with productivity. So that's the personal side of me. The other side of me is my kids and my family and Bonkers the dog, who is walking around here. You may hear him. He's my office mate. And the other thing that I do that I really, I just decided I wanted to share. I'm a court-appointed special advocate, so we're referred to as CASAs. And I advocate for a kid in foster care as he progresses through the foster care system. And the job of a CASA volunteer is to make sure that everyone that gets paid to do things is actually doing their job, be the eyes and ears of the judge, and advocate for that child's permanent placement. So It may be adoption, it may be reuniting with their parents, and reunification there. Or there may be kin that they may be able to be placed with. And the cases that I usually work, they usually age out. So I work to have them age out in a powerful way and be, as functioning as an adult as they can be, given all the things that they've done with it. So I do a lot of stuff. And part of why I do that is because that's what's fulfilling for me. How I do that is that I own my time.
Wow. Where were you when I was a mom of 6 and trying to do all the stuff?
Listen, I'm glad I only have one case. There are CASA volunteers that have sibling groups of 6.
Really?
Yeah, there's one person I'm thinking of. And she was a brand new CASA. She just started and they gave her 6 kids. But she did it and she got them placed. And she just does an amazing job. So different classes have different experiences, but we all come from the same places that we advocate for these kids because we want this to be a better community, a better planet. I think about it as a great place for my kids to grow up, and I want
Yes.
them to have a world where, you know, that works, a world that works, put it that way.
Yeah. No, you and I are going to talk about that a little bit later. So you mentioned you own your time, right? Owning
Mhm.
your day. I mean, there's so many books, so many podcasts. I'm hearing it. It's like coming out everywhere. And I really like your approach to it. And I want you to kind of explain teach a few things, right? Because you can't teach everything here in the half hour that we're here. But, why did you how did the productivity even start? Give us a little bit about where you came from. Were you always this productive, or was it a progression?
No, it was very much a progression. And, for me, the whole thing about productivity was I was constantly getting overwhelmed. Even when I was just an employee working for someone, it was just, I still had stuff to do. It was just a different context, right? So I kept having and kept searching for systems that would make life easier for me, right? Like I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't drop the ball on things, I wouldn't miss things, I wouldn't forget things, all of those things. Now, thankfully, a lot of that was way before email. It gives you a sense of how old I am, right? But it was before email, so that didn't have to add that in. But I was always looking for ways to be. Back then, it was about getting organized, right? We get organized, and I tried all kinds of different systems. I've read all kinds of books about this. And really what I've kind of come up with is sort of a little bit of this, a little bit of that. So I call it, a productivity potpourri, because I really want to, coming from my martial arts background too,
Ah,
I like, I like having, the best of breed, if you will, from all the different things that people do. But here's the thing. Despite me going out and discovering all these systems, there was always a breakdown, right?
mm-hmm.
And what I didn't really quite internalize was understanding that this journey that you're going to go on to get your time back is really about changing habits. It's not just about reading a book and going, wow, that's a great system. Even in the attempt to implement the system, you are literally changing a habit. You
I
have
agree.
been this way for a long time. You've been dropping the ball for a long time. You've been running out of time. You've been showing up late. All these things that you're doing that you're complaining about, you've been doing it for a while. So to think that you could read the book and on a dime turn and then everything's good is not realistic. It is a very intentional, very consistent effort that you have to put in to shift that behavior and develop a new habit so that the whatever system you use, whether it's my system or somebody else's, none of them are good or bad. They're just all different systems that when you follow them, they're probably pretty good,
Mm-hmm.
right? The problem is that we want the magic bullet. We want to
We
read the
do.
book and have the system in place and everything's good, right?
Yeah.
It
No,
doesn't
I
work that
totally agree with you. It doesn't work that way. Anything that I have wanted to change in my life, I've had to. Well, there's part of my program that I'm creating also too, that the system I think is the best system is the one that works for you. Like, if
way.
Ronan, if you were to say, Kim, this is my system, I want you to do step, 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 right? I might be able to do most of that, right? But some of it might not sync with me. I mean, do you find that? I mean, I'm really curious about that. I mean, we're in real time here. I
Absolutely.
think everyone has to find their own system. Am I wrong in this?
No, you have to find the system that works for you. And if it doesn't work for you, then have it work for you. Because at the end of the day, it's about generating that result, right?
Yes.
So making the appointment, getting the task done, delivering on a deliverable that you may have for a client, like all those things are the outcomes that we want. The
Right.
idea of having a productivity system is that we can accomplish those things with minimal stress, minimal anxiety, lots of clarity because everything's in the calendar or on a list somewhere. Like there's a system in place. right? So that's one of the things that helps us fulfill on that commitment is that system. When
Okay.
we, when it kind of breaks down is when you try and do something that isn't natural for you, doesn't really
Mhm.
flow with your day. So I don't ever come from a place of right or wrong. I only come from a place of what works and what doesn't work. So
Okay.
in if I look at it that way, I don't care what you could technically you could use a system of post-it notes, and if that works for you and you're actually producing the results and you're actually doing the things that matter most to you, use that system, right? Now, I'm going
Mhm.
to tell you that that system actually doesn't work, right? Like it's more work to make that work than my system. Like my system's a little bit more efficient, right? I've thought things through. But at the end of the day, if it works for you, it works for you.
So it's a
Now,
lot of
the
trial and
other thing
error.
too is, yeah, and here's the thing. The other thing too is whether you're BSing yourself about whether it works. Okay, so there's always that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, that's true. That is true. That is true. All right. So tell me some success stories that you've had. Share. I mean, I know for you to be doing what you're doing, you've had success. So what are some
Right. No, that
success stories that you can share with us?
that's exactly it. My ability to over time shift this habit, and actually, I have to tell you, right now, I'm in a molting stage. And what I mean is that
No, I get that.
you know what I'm saying? Like I have my own levels of uh, you know productivity or effectiveness that I want to elevate. So for me, that's where I'm at, right? And to be able to do the things that I do and be involved in the projects that I've involved in and still have free time and still see my kids and still take the dog for a walk and still be a casa, which is about
Yeah.
on average a 20-hour a month commitment. When you
Wow.
do that, yeah, it takes some effort. So that
Yeah.
I'm a living success story because I get to do all those things. There's none
I
of those
love
things
that
that
you
I
say
really
that
have
you
to do.
get to. I
Yeah.
love that. I had a guest on before. I don't know if you've seen it, but I love that you get to do something. That is so important.
It's a whole context shift. You know, we spend a lot of our time, especially in the world of productivity. We look at our calendar, we look at our list, and we look at all the things we have to do. And just coming from that space of I get to do this, even though I don't like it, I get to do it, is like mind blowing to me, right? Because
Yes.
now you've shifted everything. How everything occurs for you is shifted. So a lot of people don't like to cold call, right? But in the context of I get to cold call, like there's other people standing on a street corner with a sign and I
Hmm.
get to cold call. Oh
Yeah.
my God, that's amazing.
For
Right?
me, it's like I get to talk to another person, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
get to connect. I get to find another friend or someone I can support, or I mean, I have no problem with that.
And getting back to your original question of success stories, they're sort of incremental. They're not in these magical big things because people implement this and they get more and more effective. So where the
Right.
success story shows up is that when we're doing our coaching and I give you an assignment or there's work to be done, now you have the capacity to do it. And yeah, that's a great way to do it. So Stephen Covey in his 7 Habits of Highly Effective People talks about P, which is your production capacity, and P, which is your production, and PC, which is your production capacity. And people forget that in order to grow their business, they have to create the capacity for them to be able to do that, for them to be able to grow it. And more often than not, they just get stuck on the hamster wheel. So the success of the productivity training shows up in increased sales, increased customer service satisfaction, whatever it is, whatever was missing for you in that process of running your business. Or it
Okay.
may just be that you're wearing so many hats, and now because you're focusing on what matters to you most and maybe hiring somebody else to do something that
Mhm.
isn't the best use of your time, that frees people up so they have less stress, less overwhelm, and they produce results. So it's really just at the end of the day, it's really about being honest with yourself about what you can and can't do, what's
Hmm.
most important to you, and learning how to say no.
That's one of the hardest things that I've found. Well, I went through a period of time where I couldn't say no, and I that was a longer process. Like you said, there's a process for all these things, and we all are willing to let go of some of those things at different times. So, is there one person that stands out to you that they literally said, "Ronan, you made all the difference"?
Oh gosh.
I know I'm putting you on the spot here.
You are, because I love being acknowledged. I think being acknowledged is great. I think it's an important thing to acknowledge people as well as being able to take the acknowledgement.
Right?
Um, it sometimes is a challenge. So I don't necessarily remember all those. You did put me on the spot there.
I know. Sorry
Um,
about that.
that's okay, because it all is a mash for me. For some
Yeah.
reason, I have the hardest time remembering things. Uh, because I'm always like looking forward, like I'm always looking for
Mhm.
what's the next thing to create. So that's like, oh, that was 5 minutes ago. Now
Yeah.
what?
No, I
Now
get
what?
it. Yeah.
Part of
No,
it's my
I
sales
totally get
background
that.
too.
Now, and so what all do you coach? So you coach on sales, do you coach on productivity? I mean, what are some of, for them to really know the breadth of what you do?
Well, the answer is yes, because we have programs for, at Invictus, we have programs for sales mastery. And we also do productivity training, which is separate from the coaching and a lot of times gets interwoven. But what we do is we help you get out of your own way. And it's the hardest thing for a business owner to understand
No, I
is
do.
that, once you've had that aha moment and you realize, wow, I really kind of get in my own way a lot, and it's very easy to see. It's just so funny when you start with, especially an employer who has multiple employees, like he or she is always pointing the finger at everyone else. And that's when you got a pretty good sense of where the problem is, because you start
Yeah.
working on them and you start realizing how they don't keep their promises, they don't communicate, they try to do everything, they don't delegate.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And some clients will skip appointments because they're too busy thinking that the next time, oh, everything will be good and I'll be able to do the appointment. It very much is in the realm of mindset, because who you are in the world and how you behave determines a lot of what you can get accomplished. It
Well,
determines how well you communicate with people. It determines how well you can motivate and inspire people and lead people. People follow someone who's got their poop in a group.
yep, absolutely. So my one of my philosophies, and I think I remember when you and I first talked, is your business can only be as good as what you are. And you have to, because you're the leader, right?
Mhm.
You're the one that's going out and doing it. So however how good you are is really going to be a reflection of what the business is doing.
Yeah, John. I like the way John Maxwell says it. He's a very famous
Yep.
leadership coach. He says, "Speed of the leader is the speed of the team."
Hmm.
And very much so. That's one of the biggest things that business owners have a hard time understanding, because it's not very obvious to them, is that a lot of the things that they have in their business are simply because they tolerate them.
Yeah.
That's it. I had one owner complained to me about a guy that comes in at 8 o'clock and then he goes and talks to people for 15 minutes and then he gets to work. He's like, you should be working at 8 o'clock. I said, well, okay, why do you tolerate that? And it was like a light went off in his head, right? It's the most obvious thing to me that says, hey, this doesn't work. You need to be here to start working at 8 o'clock. You want to come? You can come at 5 in the morning and schmooze with people. 8 o'clock, you start working, right?
Yeah.
Somehow he didn't think to bring that up. And he chose to rather complain about it. And I'm sure every time he walked in there, it would grind his gears. But if you don't say something, then the people are like, oh, okay, I guess this is all right.
People are afraid, right? They're uncomfortable, right? They don't have the languaging. They don't have, what it is to do that. So,
Well, this was a huge blind spot for him.
yeah, and they're blind
Huge
spots,
blind
right?
spot. Yeah.
Yeah. So what are you finding right now in the business community? What are some of the things that people are really struggling with, and what do you think are some of the answers for that?
It's interesting. This time is no different than any other time. It just isn't.
Mm-hmm.
The technology is different. It's a little bit different, and there are other challenges around the margins. But at the end of the day, it's a struggle for us to keep our word. Okay. We make a lot of promises. We don't necessarily write them down. We don't necessarily relate to ourselves as someone who is no kidding. I am my word. Right. So there's the 4 agreements, and the first one is be impeccable with your word.
Their
Right.
word. Yeah.
And if you just did that, like, so much of your life gets sorted out when you get yourself to the point where you're keeping your promises to yourself. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to clean the garage, like whatever it is. You keep your promises to yourself, stuff gets done, right?
Yeah.
When
But
you
it
keep,
starts
and
with
then of
us.
course there's promises to other people, right? So you
Mm-hmm.
got to keep your promises to other people. That's obvious to a lot of people because there's a repercussion there, right? If I don't keep my promise to you, you can come back at me. So people are a little bit more motivated to do that, but that's external. To keep your promises to yourself, that's a whole other thing, right? Because
Right.
now you can beat yourself up, but you can also cut yourself slack, make excuses, all kinds of stuff like that. So if you just did that, and that is a constant thing, that's not a 1970s thing, that's not a 1980s thing. It is an everyday thing for people, and we all deal with it in some way all day long, moment by
Yep.
moment, as I say. So that's something. I don't notice anything uh, particularly different about business this time. I still see business owners wearing more hats than they should. I see business owners who can't let go of control, and don't and have this calculus. Well, if I don't want to spend the time training them because then stuff won't get done, I'll just do it myself. So the
Mm-hmm.
I'll just do it myself is so prevalent for small business owners. Either they don't understand where the tipping point is for when it makes sense to get an employee because they don't manage their numbers. They don't really have statistics that are worthwhile, or they're just completely, in the dark. And a lot of times, to be fair, these are people who are, maybe you are a great Finnish carpenter, maybe you do amazing woodwork, and people say, "Oh, you should sell that." And you go, "Wow, you know what? I should sell that. This is really beautiful." And then they don't realize that the craft of what it is that they make and running a business are two separate things,
Yes,
right?
they are.
And so they're always thinking about the chair that they make. I One of my hobbies was woodworking a long, long time ago, and I was making these Adirondack chairs, and I thought about selling them, right? So it's the craftsperson that puts something together that says, "I got to take this to market," has no idea how to do that, and doesn't see the two things as two separate functions.
Mm-hmm.
So everything seems to be the same, just the names are different and the faces.
Wow, that's pretty powerful. Oh, thank you so much. So, any other? I'm going to take us switch gears again because we've been switching a lot of gears. So, as
Mhm.
we come back around through productivity, um, what is your top 3 things that people need to
Oh
start doing?
gosh, that's so
Or one?
limiting.
Give me one.
Um, I have a list. Can I give you 5? Can I give you 6?
Yes, I would love that.
All right. So first of all, I have it on my other monitor here. That's why I'm looking over that way.
That's okay.
Um, so number 1 that I have is capture everything. So you got to have something, notepad or your phone, which is what I use. You got to have something that no matter where you are, you can pull it out and write down the promise that you made. I will
Okay.
call you back. I will send that to you. I will generate that email, whatever it is.
Hmm.
You can also write down what people promise you so you can manage their promise.
Okay.
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 Work from your calendar, not your list. So, what I always tell people is you can have a list of all the things that you need to get done. That is just a repository. It's a parking lot for the things that you need to get done. but they won't get done until you put them on your calendar, because everything that you do takes actual time to do.
Yes.
So if it takes actual time to do it, you've got to put it in your calendar, right?
Okay.
I got to write this report. Okay, well, it's going to take me an hour. I got
Mm-hmm.
to finish up this spreadsheet. Those things take actual time. On a list, there's no sense of time or how long it's going to take. When it's on your calendar, it's there to be done, right? You have a sense of time it is, and then you realize I can't do the other stuff. I just
Yeah.
can't do it. So why look at it? It's just going to drive me crazy. So
Yeah.
I decide what's most important to me. I put it on my calendar, and that's what I do for that day. Now, if I get it done early, I can go back to the list and bring more things in. But I'm usually pretty good about budgeting my time over, depending on the things that I'm doing. So that's it. And then the bonus here is that there is no such thing as multitasking. Like, disappear that from any thinking that you have, because the brain cannot physically do two things at the same time.
Yeah.
The only
I
thing it
agree.
does at the same time is breathe and blink, right? But those are all involuntary actions. You don't even know they're happening. To
Right.
do two conscious things at the same time, not possible. What it really is called task switching. You do this task, you do
Ah,
this task, you do this task, you do this task. And it just goes back and forth. It appears to you as if you're doing two things at the same time, but your brain is literally switching from one to the other, one to the other, one to the other. And depending on what you're doing and how deep you go in either direction, getting to the other direction, pulling out of one and into the other and switching takes on average about 23 minutes. So it is not an effective way to do things. So disappear that. Work off your calendar, put the list away, and don't try to multitask. Then I like to plan my day the night before. So I kind of have I have a sense of what I'm doing the next day. And then number 4 is my favorite thing, which is due dates versus due dates. Okay. So there's two kinds of due dates. There's the
okay.
date, the DUE date, the date that it's due, and the DO date, the date that you do it. And
Ah,
oftentimes we conflate the two. It's not due till Friday. I'll do it then.
yep.
Right. And then you have computer problems, or you get a virus, or who knows what's going to happen, right? Like, the world is
Yeah.
crazy that way. So even though you have a date that something's due, you still want to pick a date that you want to do it.
Yes.
And where a lot of that comes from for me is the frustration of being in construction, because I was one of the finished trades. And
Oh,
if you give all the trades a due date, they're all going to come on that same day. They're not going to go, oh, well, I better do it this day so that he can do that after me. Because, construction is very much a critical path schedule.
yes. Very familiar
So,
with it.
right. So you can't all show up on the same day. So there's the date. And that's what got me really thinking about it. But even in my own life, even though I know I have the date that I have to deliver something or complete
Hmm.
something, the day that I'm going to actually do it is
Hmm.
also in the calendar. And it's not the same date.
Okay.
Because I can do it, let it marinate for a little bit, edit it, and then send it off. So that was really handy. And then obviously just say no. Really, just say
Yes.
no. It's the most liberating word. It's
Right.
actually, I've heard it. Somebody said, "No is a full sentence." Right?
It
How
is.
cool is that?
Yeah.
So
100%.
it is. It is. And here's the thing about saying no. It is honest. It is genuine, and it is accurate. Like,
Yeah.
no, I'm not going to do that thing. I have no interest in doing it. I have no skill to do it. I have no desire, whatever it is. I have no time. And really being straight with people. If someone comes and says, no, I can't do that. Okay, well, I can work with that. I'll go to somebody else. I'll do it myself. Like, I have choices. But when someone says, yeah, I'll do that, but they don't really mean it, then what? Right?
Right.
Then it doesn't get done. Then it just makes a mess in your life of your own doing, because
Yeah.
you
I
couldn't
agree.
say, no, I don't have time to do that. And now, if you put everything in your calendar that you need to do and that's most important to you, and you show somebody your calendar, they'll go, okay, I see it. You cannot do it. Right. Because that's reality. That's
Yep.
what's real.
Yep.
So it's so crazy, being straight with yourself about your time, being straight with yourself about what's important, being straight with yourself about what matters to you and what you're willing to do and what you won't do. is absolutely liberating. It's a kind of a focus. Like I have three major areas where I'm focused right now, and everything else is extra. And maybe if I have time to do it, I'll take it on. But this is it. There's a story I heard about Richard Branson, and he was offered to speak at an event, and he says, "No, I'm not going to do that." So
Mm-hmm.
they up the money. And he's like, "No, I'm not going to speak." And they keep upping the money, and there's like, "Okay, well, finally, like, well, how much money is it going to take for you to speak?" He's like, "Look, you don't understand. This is all through an assistant. I am working on three things, and if this isn't related to those three things, not doing it."
I
And
love
that's
that.
the
I've
power of
heard that
focus,
too.
right?
It is so
That's the power of
powerful.
focus. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot to the process. I mean, these are just things that scratch the surface,
Yeah.
um, they'll make a difference. But yeah,
Yeah. No, thank you for
that's
sharing
kind of
that. You have provided such huge value today, and thank you so much. And I want people to know how they can get a hold of you, Ronan, and work with you, because I know, I mean, just from hearing you today, that people are going to be reaching out because you have provided so much value. So here we have Ronan at invictuslv.com, and you also have a gift for everyone.
Yes, I will sit down with you for 90 minutes in what we call a strategy
Wow.
session. Okay. We
Okay.
usually budget about 90 minutes. Sometimes we go a little bit over, but 90 minutes. We do a strategy session. You're at the end of the strategy session, you'll be left more clear, have direction, and have actions to take in your business. Like you
Wow.
will get legit value out of going through that process that will leave you with more clarity, more direction, and actions to take.
Wow. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your time. All
You're welcome. It's
right.
been my pleasure.
Yeah, thank you. All right, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to Fontes Insider. Yes, this will be a recorded session, but as you can see, I mean, just what a gift having Ronan on was today. I know he will, you have plenty of takeaways here, so I'm hoping you had paper and pen. If not, go back and rewatch it, take some notes, and reach out to Ronan, because I think it would definitely be worth your time. Have a great day, everyone.